Powerful sitting in this chair, considering the power that normally sits here. So, sort of. Well, you know, is that what it is? I appreciate that, Senator. So, well, I figured before I leave, I'd at least want to sit in this chair one time, you know, since I might not have a chance going forward. But anyway, that's right. Yeah. I didn't, but I probably should have, considering the person that normally sits in this chair. He probably would do that to me. So, all right, with that, Senator Jackson, you're always so eloquent. I know I didn't ask you beforehand, but would you mind opening us up in a word of prayer? All right, what number are you? 10. Thank you, ma'am.
Let us pray. Gracious God, we give you thanks for the gift of life, for all creatures that roam this your planet. We ask that you would give us wisdom and guidance as we seek to legislate in ways that protect and care best for all. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Well, Representative Ridley, we're going to go ahead and take you first. So that is, we're going to take up House Bill 1349, which you'll see in your folder. And I know you got another committee meeting you got to get to too, so this shouldn't take too long, so I'm going to flip it over to you.
Yes, sir. This is House Bill 1349, and the LC is 510090. Apparently, y'all have not got the amount of emails we did on this bill that was in favor of it. We got loaded up with about 20-something hundred over there, and to show how active our hunters are in this state. The only thing this bill was actually doing is, if you look on line 15, the last time this bill was updated was in 2005, and it's just changing the date to 2022. The reason for that is because we've taken in about another 200,000 acres in hunting land in the state of Georgia, and this right here is just going to keep us make that land protected for where it can't be developed and that stuff, and be used for all our outdoor activities around the state. And that's all the bill does, and I'll answer any questions if anybody has any.
Anybody have any questions?
I got one, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Ginn, what number are you for?
Appreciate you bringing the bill. And one of the things that, you know, a couple of years ago, we pushed some money into acquisition of properties. Mm-hmm. Said is that counting into the total, like where we did the down on the river, said where the bombing range is, to buying some adjacent properties there? Is that okay? I'm getting a good feeling.
That is included in that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions? Senator Sims, are you 11?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One question: has there been a problem with the hunters being able to find places to hunt?
No, ma'am.
Or we're just updating the...
Yeah, we're just updating it, and it's not just hunters. I mean, it's for all your outdoor activities: hunting, fishing, biking, mountain hiking, all that stuff.
Oh, okay.
So this is all. It's not just for hunting. It's all the properties that's under management through the state, and it just, like I said, it protects them from ever being developed and that kind of thing. So keep it out there and keep it for all of us to be able to use it.
Thank you.
Yes. Senator Jackson, you probably put it just as eloquent as anybody could. This is a good way. This is just a land conservation bill for the state of Georgia. So.
That's yes.
Any other questions? I guess I don't think anybody signed up to speak on this particular bill. Appropriate time is Senator Brass.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to pass HB 1349, LC 510090.
Senator Jackson is seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, no. Motion carries, do pass.
Thank y'all. Have a good day.
Oh, Representative Ridley, who's going to carry the bill? Have you
thought you
to
were.
Anybody? All right. Sounds like I am then.
Just load the wagon. Don't worry about the mule.
Load it up. I guess since I'm leaving, y'all just want to load me down. All right. All right. Chairman Rhodes.
You ready?
We'll take up 1233. first.
First, yes, sir.
Please, sir. And
Thank you, Mr.
I'll
Chairman.
turn it over to you. Yes, sir.
Members of the committee, thank y'all for letting me be here today. 1233, LC 510108S. And basically, this is just the department update. If you look at lines 33, 34, kind of gives you the gist of the bill. Normally what we do with our hunting regulations is we mirror the federal laws that we bring down, and inadvertently, when we were writing up our state stuff, we left off, doves were left out of the migratory bird section. We just had geese and swans, so basically and ducks, we had to cross through that and put migratory game birds, so doves would be included. This did not allow somebody to go hunt and not get a ticket if they didn't have if they had an unplugged shotgun, because they would have gotten written a ticket under the federal law. So now we're just mirroring that and making sure we've got it in our state law. And then we just, we had a bunch of different species of black bass, and we have just consolidated those into one section. And that is basically all House Bill 1233 does, Mr. Chairman. Be glad to answer any questions.
Are there any questions for Chairman Rhodes, Senator Sims? Oh, sorry.
Mr. Chairman, one question, what is a bird stamp?
Bert, when you go, a migratory bird stamp, when you go duck hunting, or you have to go to the U.S. Post Office and buy the federal migratory game bird stamp, and that's what that is.
And it's required to
It's required
to hunt
to hunt.
those migratory birds.
Correct.
Was that all, Senator Sims?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So rudely
If
interrupted.
if you need some help after the committee meeting, just
I can handle
I figured you could. Senator Jackson,
I have a question.
I'm coming to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, with the limitations on the bass catching, so before you introduce these changes, you could essentially catch 50 bass as long as it was 10 of each different variety.
I do
So in
not.
one day, is that correct? And now we're making it so you could only catch 10 in one day.
The department.
Can you? I can't hear you.
Yeah,
Can
just
you?
come on down and if you don't mind, just
Sure.
restate everything you just stated.
My name is Tom Litz. I'm Assistant Director with the Wildlife Resources Division. I'm sitting too close.
No, you're good.
So in regards to, there was no change to the limit. What we did with that bill was actually introduced last year through House Bill 362, and all we were doing was consolidating a list of many black bass species into one by genus to make it simple for us to manage and for us to provide regulation.
But
So there's no-
I don't know if that answered her question. What she was saying, if you you could catch 10, 10 of
Smallmouth
each one,
bass.
10 shoal bass, 10.
You can catch a total of 10.
But so
There's no change.
But current law, the way it sits now, can you catch 10 of each? Is what she's asking. So
You can catch up to 50. total.
Correct.
right, I could
Yeah.
today my father-in-law can catch 50 bass as long as it's 10 of different. It's on 10 small bass, 10 shoal bass, 10.
Correct.
And
But if we
tomorrow
were,
they can as well.
but tomorrow, if we change this, he would only be able to catch 10 bass a day. If we change this law, is that correct? And if it is, I think my father-in-law, I feel quite certain, would have a problem with this.
Major Adams, did you want to?
Yeah,
We'll bring in the law enforcement division too.
Whole agency up here.
We'll have the folks that take care of the fish and the folks that tell you how many you can and can't catch. How about that? Which one? Okay, that's regular number one.
Number
All
one.
right,
Okay.
perfect.
The number doesn't fit.
And
the
for the
guide.
record, just name and everything that yeah.
Major Stephen Adams, I work for the Law Enforcement Division. And we're charged with enforcing the laws that they back with the biology. And so black bass, the limit is 10 per day. So it's a total of 10 of black bass. So if you're fishing on Lake Oconee and you catch a spotted bass and largemouth bass together and they're separate, you can only catch 10. Yeah, we don't separate
combine
that out, combine. Now, white bass or striped bass, which are, and again, I'm not gonna get into scientific names, those are different, and those may
Gotcha.
have different limits. And then there's an aggregate of 50, I believe,
Yes.
of game fish that you can have. So if you caught some brim and some crappie and some bass, you could only catch 50 as a total.
I got you. Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
That clarify?
Yeah, it
Okay. Well, Senator again, I had him first. Let me grab him, and then I'll come to you. Senator again.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, quite honestly, I just wanted to poke a little fun at my friend Trey Rhodes, because I don't know, have you ever had a red porgy in your boat?
I don't believe I have.
Could you describe a red porgy?
I might have to get some help from you on that.
You never know.
Thank you for the question, though.
Senator Mullis.
Just clarification, is a red forgy, is that like a red snapper?
Close. Real close. The next line down is a red.
Okay, I didn't know.
Senator Merritt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Could you just explain to me what was the need for the changes on lines 49 through 51? The shotgun.
40.
or
Basically, this was part of the code that was left off.
Okay.
We're just restating, basically bringing federal code to state
Okay.
code, and that was left out,
Okay.
inadvertently left out.
Thank you.
And that's what I was explaining. This did not allow people, by law, when you go hunting, you can only have 3 shells in your gun. By this being left off, it did not allow people to go hunt with 5 and 6 shells, because they would have gotten a ticket under the federal regulation,
Okay.
not the state regulation. But we're just making sure we've got it in federal and state code.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Senator Brass.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to go back to Senator Jackson's point on, so just to be clear, I want to make sure we know what we're voting for here, or I want to know what I'm voting for. So we're saying, or smallmouth bass, shoal bass, Swanee bass, spotted bass, or Kentucky bass are all considered genus Micropterus
Black bass.
or black bass. Okay, so we are taking 40 fish off of what you can catch.
Let me, so to that point.
The way this is written, we are losing 40 fish, 40 bass, 40 black bass, 40 less that people can catch in a day.
I'll attempt to explain the way I understand the even though we're taking these off, the way it is actually enforced in practice. So the way law enforcement and wildlife resources and the Department of Natural Resources enforces this in practice is, even though you can catch 10 smallmouth bass or 10 shoal bass or 10 spotted bass, you can have no more than 10 of that combination in your possession at any one time.
Correct.
Because they are all considered black bass.
Okay.
Does that? It's
Okay. Well,
no
then
different
whoever
than, so
wrote this the first time
it
messed
probably
it
was
up.
not.
It's
wrote
confusing the way it's
needed to
written,
be
but if you look at the first,
So
the
I'll-
first line 110, it
I'll-
kind of sets that for
Yeah.
the whole
Well, I'll give you.
category.
I think a good example of this is ducks. So, and even though ducks are federally regulated, they're a federally migratory bird. You can have no more than 6 ducks in your possession, but you can kill, or you can take 6 ducks of a certain species, but you can only take 2 ducks of a certain species.
Only
But the
3 wood,
combination,
only 3 wood ducks.
yeah, the 3 wood ducks, but the combination of each of those species can be no more than 6. And that's the same thing. What is under current law and what is in practice when it comes to the black bass is it's basically you can only take 10 black bass, but you can take a combination of each of the individual species under that definition. That may be not the right terminology, but that's the way it's practiced. I agree, Senator Brass.
We're
It
cleaning
probably
up.
should
It's
have
a
been
cleanup
cleared.
bill.
This is cleanup to
Cleanup
ensure
bill.
that that's clarified under the law. That's correct. There you go.
This was long overdue, Chairman Rhodes.
Major Adams.
Mr. Chairman, just one other point. A lot of times the fishing public may not know how to adequately
Yeah, I
or
wouldn't have a
identify
clue.
the bass. So that keeps them from, oh, no, you've got 11 black or 11 largemouth. You could have 10 largemouth in one spot. And so it's just 10 total black
That's
bass
fair.
because they all look very similar. Although they could occur in the same watershed and be caught the same way.
Because if you remember last year, we had to do cleanup on a hybrid trout.
That's right.
We were getting that argument. It was a hybrid trout that had developed, and it didn't have a limit on it, and we had to come in and clean that up.
That's correct. All right. Any other? That
Fish
got you?
cleanup, man.
Fish cleanup. Yep. Any other questions from any members of the committee? Is there anybody that signed up on this? I'm guessing not. All right. Appropriate times now. Senator again.
I move do pass on HB 1233 LC 510108S.
I got a motion. Second from Senator Goodman. Is there any further discussion from members of the committee? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Do pass. Good deal. Thank you, Chairman Rhodes.
Thank y'all.
I think I'm carrying that one too, right?
Yes, sir. I think you were slated to, but if you need to defer, I'll leave that up to you.
Okay, all right. Just put me down for it for now, and then we'll
I've got one question.
we'll figure it out. Yes, sir.
I've got a pond and my fish are real small. If I put Miracle Grow in there, would that? Is there a secret here? Yeah, it'll help.
So, well, that's right.
Sample first before we made a decision on this.
I think, Senator Mullis, if you've been taking a scoop of Miracle Grow a night, you probably have your answer.
It works on me like this.
Yeah. By the way, I just want you, I feel pretty powerful in this chair. I just figured I'd let you know. Senator Sims wanted to know if you left a tack in it before I got here.
I did. Before everybody got here asking me about play, because it would look small. I'm right there.
That's right.
Proud to be a part of this team.
All right, good deal. Well, we're glad to have you. All right, moving on. We have House Bill 1147, and I'll turn it over to you on that one, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of
Hold on. Y'all are free to go, unless you want to hang around for this particular bill. I think we do have some folks from the department that are here.
A combination of that crowd will be coming back
That's
shortly.
right.
Yeah.
That works. All yours.
Y'all ready? Thank you. House Bill 1147. I know you've probably gotten some emails on this. Well, I hope we can stop them today. As you know, the hunting community is a very passionate group of people. They really truly are passionate about what they believe in, and this is a bill that they have expressed that. But anyway, we have got several things the department have done. Bottom line, we've got an overpopulation right now of raccoons and possums. Just to give you an example, I was telling somebody the other day, 18 of my close friends used to hunt raccoons, and now only 2 of them hunt raccoons. We don't have the raccoon hunters that we used to have throughout the 70s, 80s, and 90s. We just don't. They're very adaptive animals. They can live in a lot of places, and they have really taken off. They're really taking a toll on our nesting game birds. You can ask St. Simon's is having a huge problem right now down there with overpopulation of raccoons on the island. So, different pockets see different things, but we are heavily populated with raccoons in the state of Georgia. Some of our neighboring states, Alabama and Florida, have no seasons or limits on trapping raccoons, and Tennessee and South Carolina have a version of year-round hunting raccoons. So a lot of our neighboring states have gone to this method to try to control the population. Our wild turkey population is way down right now across the state, and we've taken some measures through the department, and with y'all actually helped us do this last year. We've actually shortened our turkey season, and this is the first year that's gone into effect. We've shortened our turkey season trying to get our population to bounce back, and this is just another key measure that we were hoping to put in place to help that rebound, and then the authority is being put in the department's hands. We've got the team of biologists over here who study this stuff, see it every day, know what's going on. Then they will have the ability and the authority to come back in. If they see our raccoon population getting down too low, they can come back and reverse this and put it back so we keep a good balance in our ecosystem of animals here in the state of Georgia. And that's basically what this bill does. Basically what this bill does right now as it sits. Communications with all the people that are emailing y'all and with my fellow chairman across the way there, and the department, we've had major discussions, and we've come up with a fix that I'll let him present as an amendment to this bill as we get there. And and I kind of, you want to just go to it there so we can just go to where it's going to sit, hopefully?
So we can go ahead and talk about it a little
Yeah.
bit. So I think a lot of the conversation that's kind of spurred around this particular topic or this bill, and Chairman Rhodes, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I think there's a lot of the concerns spurs from especially the opportunities to hunt on public lands, not necessarily private lands. I think private landowners, in a lot of cases, we do things differently when it comes to hunting seasons for private landowners than we do for public lands. One example of that is the deer population. About 2 or 3 years ago, this body passed legislation that gave the department more flexibility and more authority when it comes to deer, and on private lands only. Public lands are still handled just like they always have been, but we gave the department additional flexibility to work with private landowners to make changes on private lands. So with that in mind, what we're proposing, and there'll be what I'm going to propose is a change. It'll be in Section 2 of the bill, where we will add after the words. I'll give you the line number real quick. On line 129. After the word mice, we would add the words on private lands not operated by the department. So what this change in and of itself will do is it will give the department and the board the authority to regulate in complete control on public lands the seasons. The board and the department and WRD have already proposed those changes. If this legislature passes this bill, if the governor signs this bill, they already have the proposal in place to take to the board to where the seasons for raccoons and possums will stay the same on public lands, but the seasons on private lands will be left up to that private landowner. And when I say public lands, I'm talking about WMAs, I'm talking about lands owned, but also lands leased by the state. I think that's an important distinction. Correct. So if the state has operational control of a property, whether it owns it or leases it, the season will remain as it is today on that property. But on private lands, it will revert to that decision and discretion of the private landowner. As to whether or not when you would allow hunting for raccoons and possums on your own private land. That said, I think Chairman Rhodes laid out the argument, and I think we have some biologists here, I think, that can speak to that a little better than I can, but we wanted them to come today, so if y'all have scientific questions, they've got the science to We've seen a reduction in the turkey population. Way down. Which is why we addressed some of that last year. We've seen an increase in quail and on the island sea turtles. And we've seen increases in population of raccoons and possums in our state. Raccoons and possums are predatory animals when it comes to turkey eggs. So I think when it comes to a biology question and when it comes to an ecology question, when you see a decrease in population of one species and an increase in population of another species, it asks the question of the balance, so to speak. So I think this is an attempt by the department. I think this is an attempt by this legislature to address this in a way to where it gives the department the authority and the control to make the decisions as needed through biology and through science. And like Chairman Rhodes says, if it comes to a point to where based on the science and the biology that they need to make adjustments, they'll have the authority to do that. So I'm sorry, I'm just kind of spilling that on. No, you're good. And I was just going to mention to them too our reasoning to kind of commingle with what we did last year, especially for we're talking about turkeys because that's one of the easiest. Is we shortened the season on the front end. You can only kill one a day, and we took the bag limit down to 2 is what we did last year. And part of that is to allow the mating process to occur and more hens to nest at the same time. That way,
if there are a lot of nest and stuff going on, predators can't zero in on one particular spot where you get spot mating with the dominant gobbler being killed, and it takes a while for him to get back with the hen or her to take another gobbler, and basically you have spare nests that are spread out over time, and they're easy to attack and focus on, if that makes sense. So,
Thank you, Chairman Rhodes. Senator Goodman, you have a question?
Just curious, Chairman Rhodes, we plant trees, and so down in South Georgia and North Florida, and I've noticed, you bringing this bill really made me thinking about it. But when we go down into Florida and we're planting trees, I mean, we see a lot of turkeys, and in South Georgia we don't see near as many turkeys. And I heard someone gave some testimony that Florida is doing something about this. Is what Florida's doing? Is that? I'm curious, does our DNR talk with Florida? Because what I have seen myself in the woods, when you stay in the woods all day, you get to interact a lot with wildlife. But we see a lot more turkeys in Florida than we do in South Georgia. So I was just curious, is the population of turkeys, do you speak with your counterparts in Florida?
We can, you mind if
we can bring them on up?
Why don't we bring them down to the department and let them have a little more, just for the record?
I'm Emily Rushton. I'm a biologist with Georgia DNR. I manage our turkey and our fur bearer program. Turkey and fur bearers, so including raccoons and possums. Can y'all hear me? Yes, short answer, yes. I am in contact with the Florida turkey biologists all across the Southeast. We share ideas and get together and have meetings to discuss what's going on across the Southeast. And as far as Florida's turkey population goes, they have seen some decreases, but they have a different subspecies. I'm sure you're aware down in Central Florida, the Osceola subspecies, that they, because of Florida's climate, they have a much longer breeding season than Georgia, even South Georgia. They are able to. They just are a little bit more prolific breeders, and so that might be why you've seen more. That it depends a lot on like the habitat types you're in. Turkey populations vary a lot locally too. So, yes, that's yes. To answer your question, we do talk to Florida and know what they've got going on.
You done? Yeah. Senator Brass.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Regarding the sea turtles, are they federally protected, or are they under any kind of protection?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sea turtles are federally protected.
And so Chairman Rhodes said that the raccoons are getting quite prevalent on St. Simon's Island, and so is that becoming a problem where we've got raccoons eating federally protected eggs?
Well, it's an ongoing issue.
They should know better.
We do. We've got state managed islands where we manage the sea turtle populations, including predator management. The National Park Service manages predators on Cumberland. It's just various agencies have the authority to manage sea turtle predation. But yes, pretty much all beaches in Georgia where sea turtles are nesting, there's going to be some sort of predator management.
Okay. And this would help with that? Or does that not change that?
It would help more with non-protected species on private lands in particular. A private farm or property where there's quail and turkey where they're trying to manage predators.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Senator Robertson.
Have we noticed a population increase in the raccoon population? And if we have, does it run parallel to the possum population also?
Well, the way we monitor our raccoon and possum populations is through harvest. And like we heard earlier, there's not as many raccoon hunters as there used to be, and there's definitely not as many trappers as there used to be. So the harvest sort of tracks the effort that hunters and trappers put into it.
And you track that harvest by hunting license, I guess, or because we used to hunt. We used dogs.
Mm-hmm.
We never trapped,
Mm-hmm.
but or trapped them up a tree. But so how do you track?
We have a phone survey that we do every 3 years where we call a selected number of hunters and we use that to, sort of statistically estimate our, the number of raccoons and possums harvested each year. And for trapping, we have a mandatory survey that every trapper has to complete at the end of the season.
Okay, are we running into the same problem with armadillos?
Well, armadillos they're
They're not
different,
fur-bearing, yeah.
No, they're not fur bears. They're non-game species, but they're technically invasive. They came here on their own. Their populations have just expanded out from Texas across the southeast, all through the state. So.
But are they assaulting the same game animals that the raccoons and the possums are?
Yes, they are. They're not probably our top nest predator or anything, but they will depredate bird nests and they're egg eaters. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you for allowing me to be part of this amazing committee, and with the strength that's just sitting at this table, it's amazing. And it's like the armadillo possum on the half shell. Is that what you call it? And look, when I was young, a long time ago, there were no armadillos in my area, and I'm in northwest Georgia at the foot of Lookout Mountain, and they're all over the place now. And also, Mr. Chairman, I'm looking in here, and I'm trying to find this passage that says, "Why did the chicken cross the road?" And that is to show the possum it can be done. Isn't that right? Oh, come on, that's kind of funny.
So are you going to provide possum on the half shell Monday for the Rules Committee lunch?
Would you actually want that? No, we're having a Southern meal for Rules.
Okay, all right.
And for everybody here.
I understand, Mr.
Thank
Chairman. I'll go to her first, and I'll come back to you. Senator Jackson? Okay.
My question is actually about the amendment that you discussed.
Yeah.
So I understand the private lands allowing me to continue to trap and kill murderous animals on my land. Thank you for that. Yes, thank you for that. But I'm concerned, so I think what you're saying for the proposal is that the hunting season for possums on public lands would remain October 15th through February 29th.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Would there be any clause, so for example, around the deer hunting, the department has some discretion?
Yes.
Will there be a clause for the department to have discretion, since we clearly have a problem on public lands as well?
So yes, so the language in the bill reads, for clarification, the amendment that we're adding ensures the department has that authority to make it happen. But there's language, but the language in the underlying bill specifically says no closed season except as may be adopted by the board, which gives the department the discretion you're referring to.
That's
yes.
what I just want to make sure.
And they meet once a month.
That's
so
right. And the department and the board does meet once a month, so they meet more than we do, and because of that, it gives them more flexibility. And by adding the language that I'm proposing, gives the department that additional needed flexibility they need to ensure that we're doing the split on the public-private.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay. Senator Goodman, that's right. And that's right, I got Senator Merritt too. Senator Goodman, go ahead.
Just a quick question. Can you tell me over the last 10 or 20-year period, or how long that you all keep data on this, how much the raccoon population has gone up percentage-wise and how much the turkey population's gone down? Do y'all have that quantified?
Well, it fluctuates from year to year. The way we monitor the raccoon population is through the harvest, and that has fluctuated, but overall, it's seen a downward trend. But we feel pretty confident in saying that their populations have increased based on the lack of harvest effort and the changes in habitat that we've seen throughout Georgia. A lot of places where our turkey populations have decreased the most are in the Piedmont central region of Georgia, where we've seen a lot of development, suburban development, and those are the kind of habitats that raccoons and possums really thrive, but turkeys do not nest as successfully in those type of habitats. So it sort of created a perfect storm for increased predator populations and decreased turkey populations.
But there's not really a way to quantify it? Like, turkey population's down 20%, raccoon
Well,
population's up 20%, or?
As a scientist, I hate to just put like a statewide generalization, because some parts of the states it's up more or down more than others. But our harvest success is down about 30%.
At least.
And what we another metric that we look at is the poults per hen, which is how many poults each hen raises each summer. And the average number of poults per hen 30 years ago was like 4 poults per hen. Like, so each hen was successfully raising 4 poults. And then our latest numbers are like 1.5 poults per hen. So that's the metric that we look at.
I got you.
You done?
Yes, sir.
Senator Merritt?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I know you have explained what is causing possible causes for the increase in the population for raccoons and possums. I am of the belief that nature kind of controls things in this ecosystem. And I guess my question is, could the cause of the increase also be, to your point, we have more urban growth, less farming as we see, more development, especially here. So I guess, is nature correcting that because we have more growth, population? So, species like raccoons and possums, they're kind of a cleanup. They're kind of a cleanup crew too, right? So I'm just trying to identify, could that be causing the increase? Because I do believe there is a balance. As we're growing, nature is saying, hey, well, we need more cleanup crew here or whatever, or things to make the balance better or help. So that's my question.
You're right that they absolutely do have a place as, sort of scavengers. They're, they take care of a lot of, dead animals, that type of thing. They definitely have a role in the ecosystem. But the problem is that humans they've really adapted to what we provide them, namely, trash, cat food, and all those types of human-caused food sources, right. And that the effect that we're having is greater than pretty much anything else in the ecosystem. Honestly, the humans have altered the landscape in a way that it's not going to correct itself.
Okay, I got you.
Senator Jackson, are you? You're finished, Senator Jackson.
Could you speak to what you believe to be the impact of deer feeding and its correlation to the increase in raccoon and possum? I know I can see the evil stares from my deer hunting friends. But is there a correlation between deer feeding?
Don't be meddling.
Is there a correlation between deer feeding and the increase in the population of raccoons and possums?
Well, it's certainly reasonable to think that it could be. If you put a food source out on the landscape, it's not just for deer. You can't put a sign that says deer only, and the raccoons and possums and everything, hogs, don't leave it alone. We haven't had any direct evidence that it's directly causing the population increases or anything. But it's certainly a reasonable thought.
I will say, I think Chairman Rhodes would echo this, that most serious deer hunters use systems in which raccoons and possums and squirrels, and even though sometimes they find ways to get in them anyway, where it makes it a little more impossible or practical for them to get
make it a lot harder for them.
That feed source that you're trying to provide for your deer population. So
because that stuff's not cheap.
No. So, Senator Roberts.
Yes, on number 2, and to our DNR friends and the chairman, I don't see a hog season on here. And because my question was, I know we got very aggressive a few years ago in trying to eradicate feral pigs and hogs from our land, And I was curious if we had been successful with that, and is there some correlation maybe in between opening this up a little bit by the way we handled that, as we're basically handling this somewhat the same way by allowing people on private property to basically drop Armageddon down on these predators.
24/7, everything but a nuclear bomb, and you can't do it out of a.
Okay, I don't quite I didn't understand anything he said, but
I'm going to let the science speak behind it, but I think, and you will agree, that by us doing what we did, that we have greatly enhanced our farmers are seeing a lot better results on their farms, and by doing what we did on the feral hogs, we have put a big dent in their population.
and I think this type of aggressive action will do the same thing with these creatures too.
Yes, sir. That's what we're hoping. Yes, sir.
I will say, though, on the feral hog issue, it's still a problem, a significant problem. And so, which is why Senator again alluded to it's 24/7 unlimited. And basically you can use anything. That's right. Senator Goodman.
Does DNR have the ability, so I live in a very rural place in South Georgia. We have to put brush guards on all our vehicles because the deer are so bad. It's just, they're everywhere. You know what I'm saying? Does the DNR have the ability to adjust policy, what you see in wildlife by county, or no? Because what happens in, the
They can-
Piedmont, so to speak, versus Clinton
They
County,
can
Georgia?
design something just for you.
Yeah, that's right. There you go. Look, check. Good call, Senator Jackson. Line 55. So yes, the department does have some of that authority. All right. Any other, Senator Sims? Yes,
One.
ma'am.
The largest affected area was the Piedmont area you mentioned. Why do you think it's the Piedmont region?
Because it's seen the most change as far as the landscape, as far as development. That's Metro
Development,
Atlanta
urban
spreading.
sprawl. Mhm.
Basically, Atlanta going down I-20 there.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
We do have a couple of folks signed up to speak, so I'm sorry. Well, it was what I said earlier, but here, if you want to look at it, yeah, I'm just going to do it. That's what it is, that right there. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chairman, just in a nutshell about the amendment, can you just go over that again?
We'll go, if
You
it's
will?
okay, we'll go
Okay.
through the speakers, and then after they get done, I'll call Chairman Rhodes back, and if we need to get the department back up here for any clarification, we'll do that. And then we'll go over the amendment at that point.
To explain how you
And
fixed it.
that's right, yep.
Okay.
All right. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
All right. Mark, you're working your way on down. You can come on. You were signed up first.
All right,
The mic is yours.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Thank you for a few moments of your time. My name is Mark Woodall. I'm the legislative chair for the Sierra Club here in Georgia. The Sierra Club's the oldest and largest environmental group in the country, with some 4 million members and supporters nationwide. Generally, we kind of stick to clean air, clean water, and clean energy is our main deal, but we do support ethical hunting and fishing. Over the years, over our 130 years, we've supported this establishment of millions of acres of national wildlife refuges, so we're not anti-hunting or fishing. But we do oppose this bill as it's written. We've gotten a lot of complaints from our members. We don't think it's ethical to kill baby possums, and that's exactly what you'd be doing if you do away with the closed season from March 1 to October 14. We don't think that's ethical. We think it would be an embarrassment to Georgia. We need to keep our reputation for ethical hunting and fishing. We have not seen the biological reason for this. As alluded to earlier, we've got a lot of problems with invasive hogs, invasive other, armadillos. So I think that's the way we need to be going instead of our native species. And I appreciate the amendment you discussed, but really private land, and I'm big on private property rights and public land, all this wildlife is still public trust. So I don't think we should cut it out that way. I think we need to continue to protect baby possums and baby raccoons by keeping the season closed from March 1 to October 14. Thanks, sir.
Are you okay with the raccoons and the possums eating sea turtles' eggs? Because they should know better.
You're right. I'm not the scientist or biologist here. I understand there's different problems on the coast. We're lucky that most of our coast is not developed, so that's a great thing. But
Ossaball Island.
I believe I'll defer to the other experts on that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Senator Robert, I guess you're done.
Glad to have you come up here today. I had the pleasure to speak to your group in my district, and y'all do good work in some areas dealing with energy. So you mentioned the feral hog issue I brought up. Are you comfortable with the way we've been addressing the feral hog issue?
Well, as was mentioned, you guys have tried, but I've seen some of our food plots of our deer hunters just torn up by feral hogs. So
right.
They're coming up and down the Flint River. So,
but do you think the aggressive approach that we have taken has been moving in the right direction?
I think so. I mean, we. Invasive species. That's not as was mentioned. We're wanting to protect the endangered species and the native species.
Is a possum? Would you consider a possum an endangered species?
I don't think so, but it's a native, and we have the most famous possum in the world, Pogo the possum. So I don't think we.
And if he's not eating turtle eggs, he should be okay then, right? But what I'm saying is if we find these issues and we find a more aggressive posture is the best way to handle it, and that the board has the ability to make decisions month to month, and we trust those individuals that sit on that board, don't you think that since they have shown the responsibility in the past of dealing with other issues related to aggressive animals that are native to Georgia and those interlopers like the armadillo and the feral hog, then don't you feel that since they've had so much success with that, and I've seen a lot of success from what we were having with the feral hog problem to the problem we're having now, which is much, much less than what it was, don't you feel that have the confidence that they will manage this operation in the right way also?
Well, I would say that we need to go with the science and biology, and I'm not familiar with enough with what's going on the coast to say, Senator. Really.
Okay, so the biologist is where we should lean to, you feel?
If the science and biology shows that there's a problem with endangered species, then we need to look into that.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank Senator Jackson.
Yes. Thank you so much for taking your time to come here. So I just want to understand the concern of your members is that if we were to hunt raccoons and possums year-round, that their kits and joeys, or I think that's the right terminology, that they would be left orphaned. Is that the concern that they're raising?
Yeah, I think they'll die, right? I mean, the breeding season for possums in Georgia, I think, starts in January. Mm-hmm. So, they being marsupials, they are pretty helpless for quite a while. So, yeah, I assume if you trap a pregnant possum or a possum with the whatever the small possums are, I think the possums would die, right? The baby possum.
Yeah, I guess, I think there's some tension that we're experiencing here in that if you're okay with hunting, then that means that you're okay with animals being killed at some point. And with a possum being a marsupial in particular, I happen to have great experience in this area. Because a possum is a marsupial, their babies, to use y'all's terms, are inside of them. They carry them in their pouch.
Right.
So when a possum is trapped during that raising season, the babies are trapped with them. And so they are removed, taken care of, whatever, all at the same time. They're not left orphaned, is my point here. So if that's the concern, trappers are not orphaning. They're taking the animals with them. They're taking the babies with them. So I'm just trying to understand exactly where the concern is. Is it about starving baby possums? If that's the case, then trappers aren't leaving babies to starve. They're taking them with the mother because they're in the pouch. So can you just help me understand where the concern is?
Clearly your experience with possums exceeds mine. I've only I have removed some possums from the garage when they started eating the cat food, and that's about all I know about possums. I don't know that much about trapping and how that works. I would say that we generally don't hunt animals year-round. As you know, this list just shows beavers, rats, and mice, I believe, is all that we go after year-round. So,
Well, with certain caveats, you can get a permit to hunt anything year-round through the department, and the department issues that based on the biology of the area in which you're requesting that permit.
well, y'all are starting to exceed my knowledge of animal husbandry, but I think it would be, you know, while you're raising the small possums, the baby possums, I believe they ought to be left alone, would be our
Thank you.
basic.
That makes sense.
Thank you, Mr. Woodall.
Thank you.
Appreciate you very much. Mr. Worley, come on down.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Good to see you, Mike.
It's
Yes,
a real
sir.
honor to be here. Thank you,
sir.
all members of the committee. Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. It's great to see you. And you can pretty much do anything you want in this place, sir.
Hey, he's already been let loose since he's not coming back.
Yes,
so
sir.
We've been seeing yeah, that's right. Yeah.
This has absolutely nothing to do with the subject at hand, but I have certainly experienced Chairman Mullis, and I have never seen him in any way restrained by what his future plans are. So, but it is a real honor to be here. My name is Mike Worley. I'm President and CEO of the Georgia Wildlife Federation. We are the state's oldest member-supported conservation organization. We were founded in 1936, actually December 10th of 1936, and we were founded by hunters and anglers. We continue to have hunters and anglers as sort of the foundational component of our organization, though we have expanded that organization significantly through the years, and we have a lot of non-hunters and anglers as part of our organization as well. One of our primary tenets that you will find at the Georgia Wildlife Federation is that we are advocates of the professional, science-based management of our wildlife and our natural resources. So that's what brings me here today. It's a real honor, and I appreciate you this opportunity. We at the Wildlife Federation have serious concerns about House Bill 1147, and I honor and salute Chairman of Game Fish and Parks Committee, who has authored this bill. He is a terrific advocate for hunters and anglers. But as we often do, occasionally we have disagreements on policy issues. That's what y'all do such a terrific job of hearing and listening and judging. So my primary concerns, or our primary concerns with this particular bill, is that I think we've heard a lot of this already mentioned. The truth is, I don't believe, and I can find no science that shows that this bill would have a significant impact on possum populations or raccoon populations. We found we actually have a hard time, and you actually have already heard here today, even determining what possum and raccoon populations are in this state, because we simply don't hunt them like we used to. We don't trap them like we used to. And so those numbers are really hard. It's hard to make a comparison one year to the next on what those populations are doing. We may have some anecdotal experience by seeing them on our trail cams and those kinds of things, but it's really hard to make a guess. There's been a lot of talk about these animals being nest predators, and without question they are. But also the research on some of these animals that we're talking about, turkeys, northern bobwhite quail, really focus, when you start looking at the reasons we're having fluctuations or problems with those populations, really tend to focus on habitat. They tend to focus on, as you just changed the law last year, also perhaps focuses on changes in the time in which we can hunt them. So those have been listed as some of the biggest reasons. Certainly there's nest predation that goes along with that, but it oftentimes doesn't rank as near the top as one of the reasons why we're having these challenges. So as an organization that was founded by hunters and anglers. One of the other components that we also are very interested in is the number of hunters and the number of anglers that are out there, and want to see those numbers grow. We work in partnership with several other organizations in what's called R3, recruit, retain, and reactivate people to hunting and fishing. One of the greatest concerns, as we actually do research on this, and we do actually have research that backs this up, particularly young folks that are interested in coming into hunting and fishing, are truly concerned about the ethics component. They're concerned, they love the fact that hunting allows them to go out and take animals that were raised in the, excuse me for saying it this way, it's raised in the way God intended them to be raised. They don't have, they don't have antibiotics injected in them. They don't have hormones in them. They are raised naturally, and a lot of people are very attracted to that. A lot of our young folks are attracted to that as part of the reasons why they're coming into hunting. To say that means that they are interested in the ethics component. So this particular legislation would allow for the hunting and taking of those possums and raccoons year-round, including the time when they are raising their young. And so if you shoot a mama possum, even though those animals are in her pouch, the joeys will die. Okay, and if you shoot or trap a mom raccoon, those kits will die, and so it's the optics and the ethics that are as big a problem with this bill as the truth is the biology really. If everybody that raccoon hunts decided to go out and raccoon hunt tomorrow and through the summer, we probably won't, in essence, have much impact on the raccoon population. We constantly feed them with corn in the woods. We feed them with cat food in our garage and garbage. We feed them with the garbage that we have. What's one of the other not so friendly nicknames of them is Trash Panda, and so it's one of the challenges that we face with these animals. And so the other component that I'd like to point out, when we're talking about the amendment that fixes the private lands issue, if a private lands owner is interested in really aggressively managing the population, we'll pick raccoons just because if they're interested in aggressively managing those raccoons, they already can. So you can already, if you have a piece of property, if you've got 500 acres out there and you want to manage it for turkeys and you think that nest predators are a problem in your area, then you can submit a plan. Doesn't have to be, there are no standards for the plans. It'd be pretty simple. To DNR, they will grant you the authority to go out and trap those nest predators right now under the current law. So you have the ability to do those things currently on your private property. So these are concerns. It's really more optics than it is biology, but it's a real concern for us as an organization that's really trying to bring more people to hunting and fishing. So I think that pretty sums up our position here. Be glad to answer any questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mike. Senator Merritt.
Thank you. That was great information. So that kind of, you've answered one of my questions. So private landowners can work with DNR to submit something to help control the population on their private lands. My other question is, what else can private landowners do? Before you presented that, I started thinking, what else can they do to keep their nesting animals safe from possums and raccoons? Like, what other interventions or what other protections that are ethically friendly?
And I'd like to point out, raccoons and possums are part of the natural landscape. So turkeys are part of the natural landscape. They all have evolved together. They all have their own built-in defenses. There are reasons why turkeys all kind of lay eggs at the same time and all this kind of stuff. So there are all kinds of reasons why they can. What else can a landowner do? They can enhance their habitat for their turkeys. The landowners can eliminate unnatural food sources, perhaps like deer feeding stations on their land, or corn troughs on their land where they're feeding the deer. So if the landowner actually can do an awful lot beyond trying to say, let's hunt these animals year-round. And one of the other points I want to make, we talked a lot about hogs and armadillos here. Neither of those are native on this land. Raccoons and opossums are, and these would be the only game animals listed under the list of game animals. These are the only game animals that we would allow by law to be hunted all year round. The only ones.
So I have another. So would you suggest that it might be better for us, instead of passing a law to unlimited hunting, maybe we should educate our landowners, our private landowners, or maybe we should push more towards more ethically intervention and educating them in that way, and maybe working with DNR to do that?
There is a lot of resources available to landowners. DNR has a private lands program.
Mm-hmm.
Georgia Wildlife Federation has a private lands program. We advise landowners on how to manage their land for that. Quail Forever advises private landowners on how to manage their land for quail.
Okay.
So there are a lot of folks that can advise them.
Mm-hmm.
They can advise them on the ways that they can submit those proposals. There are a lot of opportunities that they can get to get trapping permits to reduce predator and predation on their land. So there are a lot of ways that private landowners already have available.
So we have some
to
other
them.
options.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mike, for being here.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to assume you're not a biologist, correct?
I'm trained as a biologist, but it's been an awfully long time
Been a
ago.
long time. Okay. And do you have any other biologists on the board or employed by the Federation?
I employ a PhD biologist as our private lands biologist. I employ one master's level biologist.
Okay.
And I have.
And what was their? Did they look at this bill and?
Yes, sir.
And they're saying that it's not going to have a significant impact.
Yes, sir.
So having a season or not having a season isn't going to have a significant impact one way or the other.
That's correct.
Okay.
Biologically.
So I guess I'm trying to figure out why you're opposing if it's not going to have a significant impact.
The reason for opposition is because we have a.
I get the ethical part. I mean, you said that they're going to die, but I think that's kind of the point.
The reason we have if it makes no difference, positively or negatively, on a population, then our issue is as a group that is interested in bringing in additional new hunters.
Mm-hmm.
That is also part of our mission.
Right.
That part is negatively impacted by this
that's
bill.
fair.
Any other questions?
I mean, at the right time, I'm ready to do
Okay.
something.
Well, it sounds like you're ready to do something. We'll hold. I know Senator Goodman has a question. Okay, Senator Goodman.
Thank you. Is it I'm hearing testimony about the raccoons and the possums, but I'm kind of thinking about the poor old turkey.
Yes, sir.
You know, I'm not hearing anybody worried too much about the turkey. Is it your premise then that you do not believe that raccoon and possum populations have an effect on turkey populations?
No, sir. What I said earlier was that raccoons and possums are absolutely nest predators.
Mm-hmm.
What I said was that it is well down in the list of things that have a significant impact on, I suspect. That's the challenge here, is that there's no science to support this in either way. So I suspect, and my group suspects that this is not a significant component. I mean, if you will recall, National Wild Turkey Federation's motto for the last decade or so has not been kill the raccoons and possums. Theirs has been save the habitat, save the hunt. Mm-hmm. So that's really the issue that we're dealing with here when we look at these populations of turkeys on our property that we manage. We've got several hundred acres. We actually have seen a pretty good quantity of turkey poults this year. We didn't remove a single raccoon or a single possum from our property.
So you don't, in your opinion, then you do not believe that the population of raccoons and possums affects the population of turkeys?
I don't think it's the primary reason.
Senator Harrell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When I was researching this topic, I did find a considerable amount of resources through DNR on work that has been done for many, many years on habitat restoration, which I found very interesting. And I was really thrilled to see that our state has been doing that. Things like making sure we have certain kinds of grasses that are going and things like that. And I was wondering if we might be able to have the department tell us a little bit about that work, because it was very impressive.
Okay, yeah, we can do that. I can probably pitch it to them. If anybody else has any more questions for Mr. Worley, we'll. Mike, thank you for being with us. Thank you for
Mr.
your
Chairman.
testimony. Always appreciate the work that you and your organization do, and look forward to our continued work together. So
Thank you for saying that, and I
glad to have
appreciate
you
I
with us.
appreciate you and this committee and the work that you've done. I honestly, on a day-to-day basis, you folks do a tremendous job in protecting the natural resources that we have in the state,
sir.
and I salute you for your work.
Thank you, Mike. Good to have you. Tom, you want to? If you want to pitch it, that's completely fine. We'll.
Tom's a fish
Yes.
guy. So my name's Tina Johansen. I'm the Assistant Chief of the Game Management Section for the Wildlife Resources Division. And to your question and comment regarding habitat, our mission obviously is to manage wildlife for all the citizens of Georgia. The absolute foundation for that is habitat management. So we could do anything we want to out on the landscape for any species, but if there's not quality habitat, a place for that animal to live, in this case, for example, turkeys, they're not going to be there. And as Emily mentioned earlier, development and land use changes in the Piedmont are a big driver in the loss of wildlife. Our state is incredibly diverse, and we have so many rare and endangered types of habitat. We have remnant habitats, and that is what we do day in and day out. I'm a deer biologist by training and trade, but it was all about habitat management. If you build it, they will come in general. There may be other factors like predators that are taking advantage of habitat changes, but so our wildlife conservation section does all of our non-game, our unhunted species management. And they do two things day in and day out. They look for and count animals, because most of what they're dealing with are things that we're concerned about. And they make recommendations for habitat. Our WMAs all have 50-year plans for habitat management. Our private lands biologists, if you call one of them out, or one of our deer management assistance biologists, the first thing they're going to do is hop in the truck with you and look at your land. And what they're looking for is that habitat. They're looking for grasses, forbs, burning regimes, timber thinning. There are so many actions that we can take to a point that you made earlier. A lot of these land use changes don't support as much wildlife. And if we let nature take its course on some of these altered landscapes, they're not going to be as beneficial as they could be. And so we go in a lot of areas and do active management to try to boost the value of that land. And a lot of times grasslands is a big one that if you drive through Georgia, I know some of y'all have pretty long commutes, you'll see Bermuda grass and fescue grass, and these things are not great for wildlife. They make great hay and pasture and whatnot. So we do a lot of work trying to restore native grasslands and ground covers on the areas that we own. And when landowners reach out to us, we're providing them with as much information as we can about that habitat management. Does that help?
Yep.
So do you have an educated opinion about which intervention would be had the most positive outcome on nesting birds, habitat, or control of predators through hunting?
So, in my educated opinion, it's complicated. For any given nesting species, habitat is always the number one thing you're going to look at. If you bought a new piece of property, you'd walk out there and you'd go, man, this looks great for turkeys. And if I said, why do you say that? you think about it for a minute, you'd start talking about ground cover and burning and timber densities and those kinds of things. And so that's always step number one. But sometimes there's more than one hole in the bucket. So if you've got good habitat, and quail's a great example of this, I could make the best habitat in the world for quail on my property here in Georgia, and if it's only 100 acres and there's nothing around me with quail on it, I'm not going to have quail. If I get some quail and I go in there and I hunt them, and the raccoons are eating the eggs, and the possums and the rat snakes and the armadillos, and everything eats a quail. I mean, I'm pretty sure a rabbit would eat a quail if he could catch it. All that habitat stuff is important, but you have to look at that next hole in the bucket if your population's not doing what you want. And while our turkey populations vary quite a bit across the state, as Emily mentioned earlier, we do know that overall the numbers are down. We do know that land use and habitat is a fundamental problem. But right now we have a multi-year project going on in conjunction with the University of Georgia to look at where do those holes in the bucket fall out, because you could have fantastic habitat management and your population is still not where you want it to be. That tool, and y'all talked earlier about getting that permit and doing that trapping and reducing that predator population, particularly during the nesting season, that can be the tool that really boosts your population. As you mentioned earlier, they're all interconnected, so you really got to think about what they're doing in relationship to each other. And so I think the big thing here is just having those tools for landowners to be able to manage the property toward whatever goal they have.
I had Senator again first, if that's okay, Senator Sims. Senator again.
Thank you, Chairman. Said look, you got to dumb this down for me. Said I think you're an expert in wildlife management. I think what this bill does is give us another opportunity to manage that wildlife through local control with your, the board can decide what regions or what areas of the state. Said as I understand it, you're saying, hey, this is just another tool in the tool bag that will help in preserving what we need to in the balance of nature. Because we disturb it every day, whereas humans, we do that. But am I hearing you right that
Yes.
this is just another tool that we can use to manage wildlife, and it's a good thing for the state?
You boiled it down perfectly. What this does is gives those private landowners a streamlined process for removing those predators.
Thank you very much. I know we need to get on, Mr. Chairman.
I understand. Senator Sims?
Question, is this a DNR bill, Mr. Chairman?
I would refer that to Chairman Rhodes, but I believe
It's a department bill.
Yes.
I think the department really likes it.
The department supports it, yes, ma'am.
All right, the next question, the next statement is, it seems as if the conversation that we've had or the testimony that we've had also leans towards the individuals that are asking for the bill have also contributed heavily to the raccoon and possum population growth. And that's kind of concerning. We talked about urban sprawl, and we know that it's happening rapidly throughout the state, except in Southwest Georgia. Nobody lives down there. So we have plenty of turkey, plenty of everything, okay? But is it something that should be used statewide? And are we just talking about private lands? How is it going to affect the plantations that we find in Southwest Georgia? I have loads of them in my district.
That's a great question. So several of those plantations now have permits to do this type of trapping.
Okay.
This would remove that requirement for them to get a permit. And as far as the rest of the state is concerned, on private land, we obviously defer to the landowner as far as their goals and objectives for that property. We see possums and raccoons across the state, and I think that the land use changes that have really boosted their populations are part of it. The other one is that when the fur market just bottoms out, there's not much motivation for folks to come in and take these animals. And a lot of these older laws that were written regarding fur bearers like raccoons and possums were written back in the 70s when we were very concerned about these populations because they were being used for fur production. When that tanked, that control vanished. And so there's not a lot of things out there that eat raccoons and possums. And so we are the primary predator on them. And so to have that tool in the toolbox is great for these private landowners. We that manage public lands, for example, the sea turtle nests on the coast, all of those agencies that have jurisdiction, or in cases like St. Catherine's where it's private, they all have permits to do the removal that they need to do. And so in my mind, to your point, is we're extending that opportunity to private landowners to say, my needs are this and this is what we need to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Thank you, Senator Sims. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
you.
Thank you for being with us. Chairman Rhodes, you got anything you want to close out with real quick, and then we'll.
I was just going to say, I had to run outside real quick. I didn't know that. I just wanted to know that permits are not automatically given. Did we cover that?
Well, I haven't.
Permits are not automatically given. They have to be approved by our biologists. So
That's
it's
correct.
not a guarantee that a private landowner can get a permit.
That's right.
And I just want to say, Mr. Worley and I are going to be lockstep 9 out of 10 times. He does great work, and his organization does great work. We agree to disagree on this issue, but he's great to work with. But I can tell you real quick, my experience, I had somebody come help me on my land last year, and my turkey population has exploded in 1 year of doing this.
All right. Any other questions for the author? If none, Senator Brass, I know you were anxious a little earlier. You're still anxious? I have a motion due pass from Senator Brass. Well, we can do that. We can do the amendment after. So, yep. So, yeah, that's right. So we have a motion due pass from Senator Brass. Is there a second? I have a second. Now, open up for discussion and amendments. Does anybody want me to just read it and somebody offer it?
I make a motion, we pass that amendment.
I think it would be helpful for you to read that.
Yeah, yeah. So, Dave, I can give you a copy of this.
Yeah.
All right.
Just to clarify, you're just trying to exempt raccoons and opossum to trapping on private land?
On private lands not operated by the department. That's exactly how it should read.
And I can tell you,
It would only it would now restrict rats, mice, and beaver to only be trapped on private land. Okay? I just wanted to clarify.
Okay. All right. No, that's it. Yes.
getting close now. Yeah, but spring. Yeah.
So the board is who will make the changes on the public lands. That's correct, and they are planning to do that immediately upon passage. We just have to give them, the authority, and what we're doing through this is giving them that authority to do that, as was explained by their biologist better than I could. Yes. Similar, but yes.
In other words, Mr. Chairman, this amendment.
This amendment ensures that a board has the discretion over hunting and trapping like they need to make the changes they need to make to ensure that we're addressing it on public versus private lands as we discussed earlier. Yes. Does that make sense? And the amendment simply is adding on private lands not operated by the department after the word mice on line 129.
So moved on the amendment.
I'll ask. All right. Everybody clear with that amendment? And do we have a motion for the amendment? Frank?
I did.
Second on the amendment. Second. Any discussion on the particular amendment? Just for clarification, everybody understand what we are doing. Okay. I just wanted to make sure there are no other questions. Okay. All right. So motion and a second on the amendment. Is there all in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Any opposed the amendment? 2 opposition. All right. So have you got that?
Who seconded it?
He made the motion. Russ seconded it. And everybody was for except Jackson and Harold. All right.
Thank you.
Now we're to the underlying 1147 as amended to create the new committee substitute. So back to the original motion to create the new committee substitute. Is there any further discussion? All those in, how about all those in favor, raise your hand of the bill. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All opposed, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Chairman votes yes. Motion carries. On the rules.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. It was 5-5, and I voted yes. Yes. Sorry, I did it quick. I apologize. I was just rolling through it.
I got sleepy sitting for a while, you know?
Do what?
I got a little sleepy sitting.
Yeah.
Get back in it.
I understand. I'm carrying that one, I know.
Okay, sorry.
And we are adjourned. I hadn't said that. Thank y'all very much.